Hey, welcome to Flight Test. I'm Josh and this is Peter.
Hey guys.
And if you guys have gotten into the hobby and you have any transmitters with switches, one thing that's common is what?
Dropping them.
Dropping them.
Or
they break.
them. We're stepping on them. We're getting angry.
No matter what happens in life, there is a reality and it's switches break. And one thing that's a sad thing, especially if it's important switches, you lose functionality. Well, keep in mind, this will void your warranty.
You're better off trying to contact your manufacturer and sending it back versus doing this, but sometimes it's just easier to fix it yourself.
Yeah, fix it yourself, and we're going to show you how to today. Now, Peter, where'd you get these switches, man?
Radio Shack of all places.
About $3.50 a piece, and this is very important, but one thing to look at is when you have a broken switch, you can kind of make lemons into lemonade. Say you don't want a switch that toggles.
Yeah, maybe you want a push button or a momentary contact style where you just like press the button for like a bomb release, a rocket release.
You can design your ways and radios that make it more functional for you too, and seize the opportunity while you're making a repair. So we're going to show you today how to open up your radio, how to assess what kind of switch you need, and how to modify your transmitter. So Peter and I are going to go ahead and attempt to fix our radios, and we're going to walk you through this process. Every radio is different, so the best way to do it is just to kind of talk about it as we do it, right?
Yep. Just basically just take a look at all the screws. Don't pry anything. I mean, some things are maybe like certain fittings and stuff because they try to make a real nice finish on these radios
and don't
where screw holes aren't showing.
And don't forget to open up covers and also remove your battery too. Make sure that your battery is not in there and there's no power in it. But also sometimes when you open up covers, it reveals extra screws, or in Peter's case, you actually have to remove the grips to get the different screws.
So pull those off.
So sometimes you can also look on YouTube. Someone else has probably done this, and we're not the only source for information. So check on YouTube.
Yeah, because lots of people mod their transmitters too.
Yes. Now one thing you don't want to do is push this hard up against it. So what we're going to do is put our transmitter out of its misery with a nice pillow. Ah, look at that. And now we're going to start removing screws, right?
Start taking things out. I'm winning. You're losing.
Not a race, Peter.
Yes, it is.
All right. Now this is one important thing is before you go to Radio Shack and before you go out to find your switches, take a look at the switch you're going to be removing. In this case, this one's actually on an actual control board, which makes it very important for pin spacing and things like that. It doesn't mean you won't be able to go to Radio Shack and buy one though, right?
Or you can go to more specialty electronics shops or even eBay.
eBay or Amazon. They're really great resources. Now to get this one off though, we're going to actually have to screw these unscrews and make them loose. You have a special way to not scratch the plastic, don't you?
Let me get some rubber bands.
Okay.
All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this off, but we're gonna try to do it without gripping the metal surface and then twisting on it, so you don't completely like make it really ugly looking. So we're gonna get a rubber band and use that as a grip surface, and then grip the rubber band with the pliers.
Nice. Now, in some cases, you're gonna have to remove more boards to be able to get this out in one piece. So just keep that in mind. If you got to, just use the same principles we just showed you.
All right, so mine's a little different. So I had the grips I needed to remove here, so I took them out. And also these little rubber studs you gotta pull out. So these will come out just like that. So once you open it up, you're gonna want to look inside, and before you unplug any wires, you're going to look at the polarities of the switches or any plugs, because some of them are keyed and some of them are not. Mostly everything nowadays is keyed to keep reverse polarity from going in there, so you don't destroy anything. But you can take a look here while what I'm doing.
And the crafty thing is most people have cell phones that can take pictures. One thing I love to do is before you do it, take some cell phone pictures.
That's just a really good idea.
Of everything you have. That way you can see how wires are routed and stuff. And it's not only polarities, but where does this cable go to? Where does this cable go to? Does it have to hook around something? That way you're not damaging anything.
Yeah, because the worst thing to do is when you take this apart and one of these cables falls out and now you don't know where it goes. Or two cables fall out.
A couple cell phone pictures can take care of that problem. So Peter, I have this switch out here.
Sometimes these are soldered. Yeah, this is a soldered one too.
Oh, is that soldered in?
Yeah, if you carefully look closely, it's not designed to come off the board.
Oh, those pins are designed to unplug, but you don't want to do that, do you?
So that's not going anywhere.
Very good. So now you know that you're going to have to work from this location here. So what I did is before I went ahead and desoldered everything, I went ahead and took the voltmeter here, and I looked for continuity. And the way this switch works here is it basically switches continuity from the center, where it's open in the center. If you switch it towards the downward side, as it would be on the transmitter, it'll shift it to this pad. And if you shift current to this side, it'll make connectivity through this pad. So it's basically just an on-off switch. So we're just going to find a switch that matches that characteristic.
So this is a digital multimeter, and what we're going to do is we're going to check the positions of the switch so we can see whether it's on or off in certain positions. So what I'm going to do is just select any random resistance. It doesn't really matter a whole lot.
So when a switch is technically open, that means there's no continuity going through it, and that will display a 1, correct?
Yeah, it'll display a 1 because basically there's too much resistance in here that the meter can't pick it up.
And a closed circuit is the same as a closed switch, which means electricity can pass through it.
Yes.
Super. So when you're getting that reading, that means that you have a closed circuit.
Yep. So that means the circuit is closed right now and the switch is technically in the on position.
And now it's open.
Yep, circuit is open and no voltage is going through or current can flow through.
And it's possible for switches to pass continuity from one side of the switch to the other. That's where your 3-pole switches come on.
Yep. If this was a 3-pole switch, which would basically be a double pole double throw switch, because right now it's a double pole single throw, because it only does one function. It's either on or off, and it doesn't move to the other side. This would be a double pole double throw if it had another leg here and here. So that means it could do 2 functions, like on and on.
And in other cases, it could be on, off, on.
Yep.
So I went through Peter's little grab bag here, and he has a lot of different switches, but I found this little guy here that's been taken off of something, and it's just a little momentary switch, and we did the same test with continuity to go ahead and see where the actual continuity was coming from. One of these legs isn't even needed, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that off now. And then I also test fitted this in the area, and then reassembled the switch bank to make sure that nothing collided, and it looks like it's going to fit just fine. So our next step is to desolder this switch and solder this one in its place. So this leg here, I don't need that, so I'm going to go ahead and remove this right now. I only want the operation to go between these two right here. Now that I have this, I'm going to go ahead and simply desolder this. Now there's a lot of different ways to take solder off. You can use this awesome copper coil, and it actually wicks right up. Is this copper?
It looks like copper to me.
Yeah,
I would say
it
so.
wicks right up in there, or you can use a solder sucker, which when you pull this down and you get your molten solder going, you can suck it right up off of your circuit board. Both work just great. It's up to you what you prefer. Oftentimes helping hands can't get up in an area where you want to work. One thing I do a lot of, because oftentimes I lose my helping hands, is I'll just wrap a rubber band loosely around a set of pliers, and that'll hold it in place for me. So to remove the switch, we're going to desolder the current broken switch, and you can usually use a copper braid or a solder sucker for this. It doesn't matter, whichever one you're more comfortable. Make sure you remove all your solder. A little bit of gentle pressure will pop that switch right off. Alright, so at this point here, I got my momentary switch and my toggle switch back in. I'm going to go ahead and reposition and reinstall all the switches I had to take out and any wires and reroute that. Once again, remember, this wire here is originally over here. Make sure it goes back, because just because it'll close, that gimbal could hit it. So always make sure you put it back. That's the importance of recording what you take off and what you move around. Also knowing the fact, by the time you have this open, your warranty is gone. So what I did is I went ahead and went into my radio and I programmed this button that I replaced, which is SH, to operate aux5, which in this case is going to be exampled by channel 8. So now when I push this button, I can test it. And you can see I have a momentary button switch. Now I can go deeper in the parameters and actually make this switch and reverse it. So instead of on, it's off all the time, switch to on temporarily. So if I want to do like a bomb drop or something, igniter for a rocket, I can go ahead and do that. So I still have some parameters I can control, but instead of having a 3-position switch, I now have a momentary switch.
So with my radio, it's from Spectrum. It's actually a tad easier to work on. Unlike his, mine all just have wires running to each other rather than the PCB where they're all directly soldered to. So you can see mine are just wires, so it's super easy to change on these. And I found this really cool Radio Shack switch with a little safety cover, so the bomb detonation is a little bit safer. So I'm gonna go and modify it to look cool with this big switch on it.
I avoid warranties.
Peter, what are you going to use that big switch for?
The bomb drops.
The bomb drops?
It just looks really cool. Before we mount this thing in there, I'm gonna make sure everything fits nice when I put the cover back on the radio, because this switch is a tad larger than the previous one.
A tad larger. You're probably also going to want to check the functionality of the switch, make sure it works
Yep.
before you seal it up too, right?
One big thing I've learned the hard way, make sure this is plugged in, because if you don't, everything will check out when you're close to yourself, but as soon as you get away, your signal will drop and your plane will crash.
That also shows the value of range checking.
Yep. Which I'm not very good at.
Make sure we get our switches all back in order. Before we put the back on, make sure if you have any back switches that they're all functional. You're all done, aren't you?
Yep, I'm getting ready to go back together. Check it out. This is the gear one right there.
All right, friends. Well, I'm holding a Futaba with a voided warranty. Peter, you're definitely
I
holding.
avoided that really bad.
It's warranty, but we do
I should send
have.
this in.
Huh?
I should send this in and see what
No,
they think when
they
they
don't
open
want
it.
to even ever see that again. If you had a radio with a broken switch, I hope you don't have one now. Feel free to try this out. Also, let us know if you see any better suggestions.
Yeah,
There's
well,
a lot-
try it out at your expense, because the manufacturer won't cover
Yeah.
any of this.
Do you think we've said enough times you void your warranty? Also, there's a lot of great articles too on radio mods in the Flight Test article section of our website, flighttest.com. So go check those out if you want even more information. In the meantime, let's go see what we can make these things
Yeah,
do.
let's go set something on fire with these switches or blow something
Say
up.
that, you're too distracted.